All right, we are live from occupied City Hall in Rockford, Illinois. It is 9:45 a.m. Monday, July 12th, 2021. If there's any problems with the audio, just say something in the comments. I'm trying to make sure that we got everything sounding all right. All right. I haven't done a live from occupied City Hall in about a week. I was suspended from Facebook for the last 7 days. I was suspended for posting a picture of somebody it was a lynching, a picture of a lynching, and I put, this is what 4th of July celebrations look like in the 1700s and 1800s. So that got me banned from Facebook for about 7 days. So we've been having a lot of connection problems too, so pardon me if it's any issues with the Facebook connection. But anyway, so I've been banned from Facebook for a week. So I want to just sort of speak on some of the things that's happened in those past 7 days. But before I dive into speaking on those things, I want to say that the May 30th Alliance is a direct action organization. We began the occupation of the City Hall in Rockford, Illinois on October 3rd, 2020, after on October 2nd, 2020, Tyrus Jones, an unarmed black man, was shot while he was running away by the Rockford Police Department. He was shot multiple times in the back. Our occupation continued through him being shot on October 2nd, into the investigation by the Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force, which ended in November, in which the officer who shot Tyrus Jones, Dominic McNeese, was found to be justified in the shooting of Tyrus Jones. He went back to work, and we continued the occupation of City Hall. Then on January 5th, 2021, Denzel Duvant was beat at the hands of the Rockford Police Department. Denzel Duvant was beat while he was handcuffed. Denzel Duvant was beat by multiple police officers. One of the officers involved in the assault of Denzel Duvant was Officer Dominic McNeese, who shot Tyrus Jones just months earlier and was found to be justified and put back onto the streets of Rockford, Illinois. Our occupation continued through that. There was no investigation into Denzel Duvant being assaulted. There was no reprimand of the officers. There wasn't so much as a penny docked off of their paycheck. Our occupation continued through April 10th, 2021, when Faustin Guaitigo was murdered by Winnebago County Sheriff Deputy Joseph Broulard inside of his home, shot upwards of 8 times. After being shot at least what seems to be 8 times, he's tased. And after being tased, he's handcuffed and told to stop resisting arrest. Most likely the last words, it's a possibility, the last words this man heard was stop resisting arrest. Less than 24 hours later, on April 11th, 2021, Jose Gonzalez Jr. was shot while he was running away by Owen McGinnis of the Rockford Police Department. Jose Gonzalez Jr. is 19 years old, and we sit here today waiting for the investigation, the Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force investigation into both of those shootings to come back, to the shooting and to the murder to come back. It should also be noted that on April 25th, there was a high-speed pursuit in the city of Rockford, Illinois, and in the midst of that high-speed pursuit, a car accident took place, a car crash took place, and Raymond Jackson died in that car accident. Raymond Jackson was not being pursued. Raymond Jackson was not the officer doing the pursuing. Raymond Jackson was an innocent bystander who was in a car with his children, who lost his life because of this high-speed pursuit. And it should be noted that just like the shooting of Tyrus Jones is a use of deadly force, just like the assault of Denzel Duvant was a use of deadly force, just like the murder of Faustin Guaitigo was use of deadly force, and just like the shooting of Jose Gonzalez Jr. was use of deadly force, so too is a high-speed pursuit. That is a form of deadly force being used in our streets. And the same end result happens, even though it may happen in a different manner, in which somebody's life is devalued in an effort to apprehend a suspect. It should be noted for people who are of the mindset that people need to be brought in, or people have done a crime and they need to be brought in, or people are accused of a crime, they need to be brought in for the crime they may be accused of. The police department and the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies in this area have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of budgets. They have hundreds of officers at their disposal. I promise you that they can get these people in another day in a safer way, in a way that does not involve shooting in the middle of streets where people are at and where civilians are at, in a way that does not involve having high-speed pursuits and turning the streets of Rockford, Illinois, and Winnebago County into the Fast and Furious movies. They can find safe and humane ways to bring these people in. The reason that some of these people are not brought in safe and humane ways, the reason that these high-speed pursuits take place on these streets like that is because of the devaluing of everybody's life except for the officers involved. And so we want to say justice for Tyrus Jones, justice for Denzel Duvant, justice for Jose Gonzalez Jr., justice for Faustin Guaitigo, justice for Raymond Jackson. Some people will not be able to find empathy for each one of these cases. Some people may only be able to find empathy for individual cases or for two of the cases. And what it is our job to do at the May 30th Alliance and then as a community as well is to try to extrapolate and explain to people how each one of these things are intertwined and how if we do not pursue justice for each one of our community members that have these state-sanctioned violence brought down onto them, we will get to a place in which there's not a single one of us who is walking in this city or walking in this county who is not unscathed from police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice. Okay. Let's see. I don't even remember so time has ran. A story has came out since the last time I did one of these lives. Now, Tom is contemplating running for Cherry Bustos' seat in the upcoming election. This was something, the first time I heard this thrown around was maybe a month ago, maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago. Somebody said something to me about this. They said it and they had it coupled with the idea that Maurice West Jr. or Maurice West III, whichever Maurice West is, the state rep now, that he was possibly going to be running for mayor or become the mayor if Tom ran for Cherry Bustos' seat. So this was something that was presented to us in some form 4 to 6 weeks ago. At the time, I didn't really feel a need to speak about it or to have a conversation or a dialogue about it because it wasn't at the forefront of what it was that was going on in the city. But now that a news story has came out about it, now that basically this type of it's almost like a beginning of a campaign in some type of a way, a testing of the waters has happened. I believe that it's important to remind people of exactly how we got to the place that we are at in Rockford, Illinois, and how not only complicit Tom McNamara has been in all these things, but he has been an integral part in the police terrorism, the mass incarceration, and racial injustice that has been perpetuating from the institutions in this city and in this county for the past 13 to 14 months. After May 30th took place and May 30th happened and people were assaulted and beat, and again, it should be reminded to people for anybody who is watching this for the first time or who has not paid attention to these issues, and as tiring as it is for some of the people who I know all of these things already, but I just think that it's like doing a previously on of a TV show to make sure we are as much as possible on the same page. On May 30th, it does not matter what the majority of the demographic of the crowd was. It does not matter what actions the people took. It does not matter how you feel about the actions that people took or what the actions of the demographic of the crowd. The point of the matter is everybody who came out there on May 30th, whether they came out there for selfish reasons or with ulterior motives, were out there and were present because of an issue about black people in the United States of America and how that issue specifically correlated to the issues that black people face in Rockford, Illinois, and in Winnebago County. Police District 1 is centered right next to Fairgrounds, and it is not anybody who has any type of knowledge of the city or any type of knowledge of this area that does not know that the things that the police do in that area are things that they would not do if they were on Pepper Drive, things that they would not do if they were on Harlem, or things they would not do if they were back in some of the more gentrified or quote-unquote prestigious areas of the city. And so those are all things to be noted when we talk about May 30th. And so on May 30th, when the police department of Rockford, Illinois came out and assaulted people, and this is not claims that I'm making. These are not assumptions that I'm making. This is not hearsay. This is not some story that's been passed down and passed over and played telephone with. I was there firsthand for at least 80% of the day. And besides that, there are hundreds of videos online. There are hundreds of testimonies that you can find on social media of May 30th. And the day after May 30th happened, and let me just, before I just jump over to the day after, on May 30th, police officers punched people on video camera, kicked the Rockford Police Department. In coordination with the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies and people, it was a statement that was made that it was even correctional officers who were basically deputized to come out on May 30th. Like they was knighting people or some shit to get a couple extra soldiers in a war. Excuse me. But on May 30th, police officers on camera punched people, kicked people, pepper sprayed people, all unarmed people, punched unarmed people, kicked unarmed people, pepper sprayed unarmed people, tased unarmed people, stumped on unarmed people, elbowed unarmed people. And for people who may be unclear or may misunderstand when I say elbow, I mean elbow. It's a video. You can see it's an officer who was doing like he like jumps up and does an elbow on somebody in the midst of multiple officers around this officer, kicking and punching somebody that is on the ground. False arrest, connection tripping. I'm sorry, y'all. False arrests were made against people. All of these things are on video. All of these things are documented on camera, and there's pictures of these things. People were beat with sticks and beat with batons. Women, children, people of all race, creed, nationality, all of those things. There was no hesitancy to inflict violence on the people that were out there based on any type of nationality or any type of outward appearance. What's up? And so again, even though everybody evenly had this violence used against them, people came out there disproportionately for issues that affected the black community in Rockford and in America as a whole. So when the next day happens, and the next day comes, and the mayor of the city calls all of these black people to stand next to him, have all of these black people have basically, it looked like a John B music video. I don't know if anybody ever listened to John B. But John B would do a music video. John B would be the only white dude in the music video. Everybody around John B is black. His homies is all black. The girls in the video black. It ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that it's an issue. Right now, that's not what we talking about. I'm just trying to give an example of what it looked like. I don't know if you ever watched 8 Mile. Some of the scenes where Eminem would be the only black person the only white person in the whole sea of black people. It was like that. He called all these people up here for a press conference. And when he's up there, he's speaking as if this issue, and he speaks about it in general American issue. He never speaks about it as a Rockford issue. And he gets up there and he speaks about how he understands what the issue is and how he understands how institutional racism or systematic racism has left a legacy of oppression and things of this nature. He gives this pretty publicist speech, but never specifically talking about the issues, never specifically talking about the police terrorism that has taken place here. He doesn't even get up there and speak about the things that these officers did to people. He completely glosses over those things. And then later on, that he would have another press conference in which he has black people up here. And again, I have to continue to point out that there are black people up here with him, because we will get to that point later about how regularly this white politician has used black people and black faces to put on this democratic mask of being connected to black issues and being empathetic towards the black plight. And again, because of how racist the city of Rockford is, you can't just take a picture as a white person with a black person that people in the community know, or people in the city know, or people in the area know, and that will become a stamp and a cosign as this person is good with the black community, or this person is okay for black people. Never mind the fact that when any type of critical situation happens, again, critical situation, not a situation in which it is easy to be on the side of Because again, this is a city which is embedded with racism. So the easiest side to take will always be the racist side. Until the society and until the consciousness of this city shifts and changes, the easiest side to take will always be the racist side. The easiest side to take will always be the capitalistic side. The easiest side to take will always be the exploitative side, the oppressive side. It's the reason that people are justifying being down at City Market in the same place that children were pepper sprayed by police officers just a year earlier, and working with the same women and with the same people who were at the head coordinating these type of attacks to come down on citizens. Because we live in a city in which the dollar wins out. We live in a city in which brand wins out and image wins out. Consciousness does not win out. Empathy does not win out. And these white institutions, that is what they benefit off of. The status quo, because that is what status quo is here. And so people who are already on the up and up, somebody like Tom McNamara, who would be akin to the second George Bush, or somebody in the Kennedy family, based on the fact that not only was he born with white privilege, but he had political privilege. He is holding a seat which his father once held. And so that is, it's nothing more status quo than that. It's nothing that can be more about upholding this, or that can there's nothing that can signify and symbolize upholding the father and the son both holding the same political office seat at a point in time in the same city. And so when black people blindly stand next to these people, when black people blindly co-sign these people without understanding the implications that these things truly have on the community, it's the reason why the stagnation is happening in the areas and in the community at the level in which it has happened. It's the reason that Juneteenth can have a white person can speak at a Juneteenth gathering in Rockford, Illinois. It's the reason that a Juneteenth gathering in Rockford, Illinois can have white people's names who have engaged in racist actions at the bottom of the graphic, at the bottom of the flyer. But let's go back to May 30th. So May 30th, all of these assaults happen, and then after doing these multiple press conferences with all these black people next to him, like he was, again, I'm not finna keep on some metaphors, but he, after having all these press conferences, he then has a press conference with the chief of police, the ex-chief of police now, Dan O'Shea, who just won an Irish award for being, being Irish, who is a racist, who called the citizens in this community animals, which is on document and is on video. And again, that's part of the lack of political awareness and the lack of political understanding and education that's in the city, and that has to be laid at the feet of generations before. It has to be laid at the feet of them. The same way, if at any point in time we were to relent from the stance that we have taken now, the oppression and exploitation that will fall upon the next generation and the extra work they would have to do, that would be laid at our feet as well. That would be on our hands as well. And so, anyways, he comes up and he justifies with the ex-chief of police, when Carla Red, Tom McNamara, they all get up there and they justify the actions that took place on May 30th. Again, these are not things that there were not videos of. It's not like they needed to get firsthand witness testimony and they couldn't find the witnesses. There were all types of videos, all types of Facebook posts, all types of Twitter videos, Snapchats, all of these things of the actions that the things that took place on May 30th. It's not, we didn't just pick the name May 30th Alliance because the date sounded good or because it had a ring to it. It was because the extreme nature of the things that took place on May 30th. And so that was the first action, the first true critical action that Tom McNamara had to make after George Floyd was murdered, after parts of this country, pockets of this country began to make cultural shifts. I'm not talking about 180-degree changes. I'm not talking about full reversals. I'm not talking about complete consolidation. I'm talking about small culture shifts were happening. Small societal shifts were happening. Now, some of those societal shifts and cultural shifts were tokenism. And obviously the things that he did here were tokenism. He got up there and wore a mask that said, "Listen," for for like two, 3 press conferences. He was up there with a mask that just said, listen, and he let all these black people talk. Black people that's nowhere to be found after Tyrus Jones was shot in the streets. And I'm sure they'll have their reasons for that. Okay, you got your reasons for that. Okay, black people that was nowhere to be found when Denzel Duvant was beat in the streets while he was handcuffed. I guess they have their reasons for that. Okay, so black people that was nowhere to be found when Faustin Guaitigo was murdered, when Jose Gonzalez Jr. was shot, when another high-speed pursuit killed another citizen in the streets, Raymond Jackson, which can be dated back to multiple other people year by year who have died in these high-speed pursuits that take place in the city. So these people, all these people that he brought up there then have not been nowhere to be found since then. When it comes to this issue at that same type of a level, the mayor of the city, after getting up there and speaking so passionately about property being damaged, so passionately about some stores having being looted, and not even it wasn't a litany of stores. It wasn't no millions of dollars that was torn up or stolen from here. It was replaceable things, items. Again, that's what I'm talking about when we say capitalism wins out and materialism wins out. That's always the easily political advantageous thing to road to take. But when a citizen was shot, he had no press conferences. He didn't bring up a bunch of black people to speak about Tyrus Jones being shot in the streets. He didn't bring up a bunch of black people to speak about Denzel Duvant being beat in the streets while he was handcuffed. He didn't bring up a bunch of black people, African immigrants or black people who have immigrated from the same place Faustin Guaitigo was from, to speak about the issues that black immigrants face inside of America. Inside of Rockford, Illinois, and Winnebago County. When Jose Gonzalez Jr. was shot down in the streets, he did not get the Mexican American community or Latina community together to come and have a press inside of Rockford. He didn't do those things. And so you have to understand how to spot racism in 2021. You have to understand how to spot you have to understand the difference between being racist and being anti-racist, and you have to understand why there is no in-between ground. You have to understand that, or else we will continue to be in this cycle in which people can just give a 2% of the amount of money that Rockford makes to a community that deserves 200% of the amount of money that Rockford makes because of the amount of times that they have had money and resources divested from them. You get to a place where just taking a picture, just having a meeting. That's the thing that they do here. They have these meetings with these black people who they see that the community likes their social media post or shares their social media post, or they see that the community listens to this person, or that this person has some type of following, or same thing with the not-for-profit organizations. And what they do is in whatever manner in which they can, they try to have these backdoor conversations, these private talkings, these private dealings with things, and none of these things ever become presented to the public. And it makes it so that they can keep up this image of being progressive, or this image of being for the people, or this image of trying to change the issues. And again, it's nothing more perfect that nothing more symbolizes that than the fact that they are going around and painting these murals all over this city and there's still all the cops still don't have body cameras. And this was a thing that, I don't think that body cameras are going to fix the issue, but getting body cameras will get us closer to the issue being fixed than not having body cameras at all. It is better to be able to see. It's better if we could have seen firsthand what happened to Tyrus Jones from a body camera, what happened to Denzel Duvant from a body camera, what happened to Jose Gonzalez Jr. from a body camera, in the same way that we can point somebody to what happened to Faustin Guaitigo and force people to feel that empathy, because some people have to see the unnecessary violence that comes down from these institutions, because that's what it is. These police officers are violence workers, and the violence that they engage in majority of the time is unnecessary. unnecessary because the violence that citizens engage in majority of the time is unnecessary. It is very rare in life in which violence is a necessary thing. But when multiple entities start to commit unnecessary violence, it forces it reinstills or instills the mindset that more things are necessary for violence than really are. And that's the reason why when somebody has an issue with someone, they'll say, leave or I'm calling the police, or this or I'm calling the police. They're not saying that in a way of protecting themselves. They're not saying, oh my God, I'm scared, I'm calling the police to protect myself. 8 times out of 10, that is used as a threat of violence against the person it's being said to. 8 times out of 10, that's being used as a threat of violence as the people is being said to. It is people who say, I'm going to call the police the same way that other people may say, I'm going to go get my gun. It's the same intent is behind those things. And intent, I heard intent is like 2/3 of the law or something like that. And so what I want to bring it back to again is the idea that because I've seen, and it's not just specific to this weekend, it's not just specific to right now or to recently, but what I have seen through the entirety of Tom McNamara's time in office is him taking pictures with black people and it being in the picture, nobody or in the comments or in the captions or in the things being shared, nobody is talking about the lack of critical action on behalf of the black community that he has taken, the lack of the action that he has taken. From the beginning, Frederick Douglass was inside of the White House speaking to Abraham Lincoln while slavery existed. Martin Luther King Jr. was in the White House, got the pen from Lyndon B. Johnson after they signed the Voting Rights Act in the 60s, and I say those things to say that we are much further away from this idea that standing next to a black person or taking a picture with the black person or having a meeting with the black person or giving money to a black entity or a black organization is an action that is fighting racism, that is fighting institutional racism, fighting systematic or systemic racism. And what's crazy is we live in a city in which we're so far behind. Really, the only thing that these people in political offices, not the only thing, but one of the top priorities and the top things on the agenda for these people in these political offices in this city and in this county right now is just speaking about the issue. Speaking about the issue and not speaking about the issue in Facebook. And not speaking about the issue in Facebook posts or in tweets or in backdoor meetings, but publicly. People have access to video phones and video cameras, and they have these press conferences, and you see how they use the Zoom for their propaganda, for the propaganda machine of the Winnebago County Board and the propaganda machine of the City of Rockford government. But there's no critical conversations, there's no critical dialogue, there's no honesty or transparency about these things. They only do those things behind back doors, and then they truthfully only do it behind back doors with other white people. And then these Uncle Toms and these house Negroes. And again, I'm not using that as an ad hominem attack. I'm using that as a political title. It is a political title, the same way there's Democrats and liberals and Republicans and progressives and all of these different there are Uncle Toms. There are Uncle Toms, and that is what they have been used politically for. That has been how historically since Africans were first brought over here, that has been a nature of, because since Africans were first brought over here and enslaved, every part of their life has been political. Every part of their existence has been political. And so the titles, not even just the titles, but the roles that people play have been political roles. And there has been a political role of the house Negro. There has been a political role of the Uncle Tom. There has been a political role of the coon. And until we as a community truthfully address what those political roles have done as far as being catastrophic to the advances of black liberation, being catastrophic to the struggle against police terrorism, being catastrophic to the struggle against mass incarceration, being catastrophic to the struggle against racial injustice, until we start to truthfully acknowledge how Uncle Toms have sabotaged plans since the beginning of slavery, how coons and house Negroes have sabotaged plans since the beginning of slavery, and how they have, how token integration and tokenism and materialism and buying into the white American value system, how more people have become integrated into the role of Uncle Toms. There's more Uncle Toms in 2021 than there was in 1921. Because it's harder to be, because white people was looking for less Uncle Toms. They was looking for less Uncle Toms when they could just go burn the whole town, the city down, like in Tulsa. But as movements become stronger, as struggles become stronger, and tokenism became a tool that they began to use, that is when the role of the Uncle Tom and the role of the house Negroes and the role of the coons have risen to the level in which they are at now, into the place where roles where black political figures who would never before even be looked at by the white community, wouldn't even turn towards them now, because they are in such an effort to have as many Uncle Toms on their payroll, as many coons, as many house Negroes on their payroll as possible. They're reaching all over the place for them. It's the same thing as like the idea of brand marketing and stuff like that on social media, where now something like Fashion Nova, they gonna reach all over to get as many people as they can, so that way everywhere you turn you seeing them somewhere. And it's the same thing that the city of Rockford government does. They've tried to grab as much tokenism as they can, get as many people as they can to take pictures with and to have meetings with and to do a few things here and there with, to make it seem as if the black people in this city are okay with everything. Our black people are all right. The only problem that we have here is black on black violence. That's the only issue that we have. And again, those are all political tools. And the number one or the main type of political roles that are used to further that type of agenda are the house Negroes, the Uncle Toms, and the coons. And we have to be sure that we have to point those things out to our community members. And again, not in an attacking way. It's not in an attacking way. It's in an effort to say, this is what they are using you for. This is what they are using you for. It's black political roles and black political figures who, as they have gotten older, they got older and began to be used that way. They were more militant when they were younger, and the system beat them down to the point where now they just bought into the system. And so, as a community, because since we know the type of racism, the type of bigotry that Tom's actions have been over the past 13 months, when we are at a place where the issue of black liberation is taking strides that it has not taken in decades. When we have a mayor who is fighting against those strides, a mayor who has not even made sure that all of his police officers are equipped with body cameras in 2021, how it would be a crime against our people at a further level to allow this man to continue to rise up the political ladder. It's the reason that people in Chicago fight so hardly against Rahm Emanuel being appointed to anything else, because they know the things that Rahm Emanuel okayed to happen while being the mayor of Chicago. And they know the dangers and the implications that are had when you let these white people who have who have not done any critical action for black people, who have not done any critical action to destroy institutional racism. He about to give $400. They got the people they was gonna give that these measly $400,000 to, because I promise you, a good weed man making way more than $400,000 in tax money over a year. So I know the city that got more than $400,000 in weed tax money, but they're gonna distribute that out to only people who are with their agenda. Only people who are with their agenda. And until we get to a place where we understand that money is not going to fix this issue, money, backdoor meetings is not going to fix this issue. Just furthering your organization, just furthering whatever your specific cause is, just furthering your brand, just furthering your image is not going to fix this issue. And again, that's not to say that somebody, I'm not sitting here saying somebody should not be doing any of those things or saying a person shouldn't be doing any of those things. But if you are going to do those things, you should be cognizant. You should be cognizant of the people that you are standing next to and what they truthfully represent at critical moments. Not what they represent when it's time to put a black picture up on Instagram and say Black Lives, or put a hashtag Black Lives Matter sign up, or put a Black Lives Matter t-shirt on. Not then. That's not when it's important. When it's important is after Tyrus Jones is shot. When it's important is after Denzel Duvine is beat. When it's important is after Faustin Guaitigo was murdered and Jose Gonzalez Jr. is shot. And after Raymond Jackson dies in another high-speed pursuit. That's when it's important. When people are being arrested at City Market, which gets us, into City Market. I haven't been to the last 3 City Markets because of no contact order I have with the permit area of City Market, which means I have to be 300 feet away from where the permit area starts at, which is like First Street. And anybody who's been to this event over the however many weeks that they've had it, sees clearly that they have nothing to fill up the space in which this street is cut off in. They have nothing to fill up the area. This is only done in an effort to prevent people from trying to protest, to prevent people from using their freedom of speech. And again, this is being done not truthfully because City Market is nervous about losing so much money, even though that's more of a psychological thing. You have to understand how deeply psychological racism is, how deeply psychological white nationalism and the false idea of white supremacy is, where they feel that if black people are not controlled in the manner in which they want them to be controlled, that anything is liable to happen. And since anything is liable to happen, it challenges their bottom line. It has always been that way. It's the reason that they didn't want to let slavery end. They were in fear that if they no longer had control of their black population, how would that affect their bottom line? And of course, there was other things involved in it. But once capitalism has risen to a certain level, that became intertwined with it. The same thing happened in Jim Crow times and in Jim Crow era. Part of it was the idea that they didn't want black people to have equal access to the things that they had. They were nervous if black people had equal access to housing and education, the lack of control that they would have over them. What would that manifest in? And it's the same thing now. City Market is fine having black vendors there that they are handpicking and are deciding and are in control of, and have had meetings with the people who are the vendors or the people who are the ones cooking, and they have told them the do's and don'ts, the when to come, when to go, what to say and what not to say. And again, part of the issue with this is because of the lack of political awareness in the city, the lack of political education in the city, the lack of critical political education in the city, the lack of critical political awareness in the city. It is multiple minority and women vendors, because that's what they're using, 60% minority and women vendors, who should have used that as an opportunity to further push for justice in some of these issues. There were women who were falsely arrested and assaulted at City Market last year. If you're going to be a woman vendor that's going to be given this opportunity that you didn't have in the prior years, and anybody with, again, critical political understanding, critical political awareness understands that these opportunities are being given because of the crimes that were done against people last City Market, because of the violence that were done against people at last City Market. And so that is why they are going to get this demographic. And so as a woman, it should be stated that, well, when you drop the charges against these women, I will be fine to work here at City Market. When women can have freedom of speech inside of this area, I'll be a vendor here at City Market or cook here at City Market. But again, that is not the easy decision to make. That is not the easy thing to do. That is the difficult stance to have. The same thing, and I'll speak from a black point of view instead of speaking for a demographic in which I don't represent. As a black person, to know the things that happen to black people down there, and to know that you did not have an opportunity to be down there years before, and then to go down there and then to agree to be there and not be making sure that agreement is anchored in justice for the black people who were violated, who were assaulted, who were falsely arrested, for you to even have this opportunity. To not make sure that justice for those people were anchored to your agreement shows a lack of critical political awareness, shows a lack of critical political education. In other cities, that's the first thing that would have happened. But again, and that's again how manipulation has worked, is that so many people are vying for pictures with the mayor, or vying for a stamp of approval from the city, or a stamp of approval from a broader audience. Because I don't, again, I'm not trying to say I don't know anybody's intentions. I'm just only speaking on what has been a regularity. This is not something that is new. The same thing happened at the City Market press conference. The same thing has happened historically here, specifically since Tom McNamara has been the mayor, where they are trying to push in this democratic idea into a different demographic of people, and they're doing it without doing anything for these people. Without when moments happen in which it needs to be some type of critical action, they are doing the same type of they are doing the same things that generations before them did. They have the same lethargy that generations before them had, that people in office before them have. They have the same lack of transparency when it comes to the facts of the case and the facts of the situation that the people before them have. And again, Tom McNamara won't even say the names of these victims of police violence. Tom McNamara refused to say the name of Tyrus Jones. Tom McNamara, and again, the mayor and regardless of how any citizen feels, the mayor of the city is not supposed to be the mayor of the city is not supposed to be a thermometer taking the temperature of the city and figuring out what the climate of the city is. The mayor of the city is supposed to be the thermostat, and it's supposed to be setting the temperature of the city. It's supposed to be setting the temperature of the room. It's supposed to be setting the climate of the city. And that setting should always be on humanity. That setting should always be on empathy. That setting should always be on understanding, because that is what is mirrored out. That is what is duplicated. It is certain issues that if the mayor of the city never speaks on them, certain people in the city will never know about them. If the mayor of the city never truthfully acknowledges the issues, other people in the city will truthfully never acknowledge the issues. We don't live in a city that has 3 or 4 newspapers, or a city that has a major sports team where a sports player could speak out, or a city that has a plethora of musicians or artists coming from, and where all of these different people can speak out on humanity and can force the consciousness of the community to be on empathy, can force the consciousness of the community to be on understanding. As we have it right now, there are only specific figures. There are specific Blue Lives Matter sticker. There are specific entities, there are specific organizations, and there's a handful of them that can actually make a stance, and that stance can be impactful, that can actually be thermostats. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate we live in a city where there are so many thermometers and so few thermostats. But I believe that you can change that through the settings of the thermostats. But we have to force the people who are in political positions, force the people who are in positions of leadership, force the people who are in positions of I don't like to use the term role models, but people who are in positions which are looked up to in some type of a way, to be on the side of humanity, to be on the side of empathy, to be on the side of understanding, to be on the side of reconciliation. And that doesn't happen by a mayor of the city not being willing to say the name of a person who was shot by his police. He never said Tyrus Jones' name, never said Denzel Duvant's name, never said Jose Gonzalez Jr.'s name, never said Faustin Guaitigo's name, never said Raymond Jackson's name. And maybe he might have said Raymond Jackson's name, but I would doubt it. And if he did say Raymond Jackson's name after not saying the 4 names of the previous victims of the same of all 5 of police terrorism, that would say more about his character. But as it stands, I don't believe that he said the names of any of these victims who have dealt with these things. And that lets you know when it is time for critical actions where he truthfully stands. It's easy to take a picture, but in this city, it's hard to say a name. When football season starts, you'll see him tweet about Jamal Robinson or James Robinson. I don't want to say the young man's name wrong, but you'll see him tweet about that. You'll see when Fred plays, you'll see him tweet about that. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, you'll see him tweet about that. But you won't see him tweet the names of these victims of police terrorism, of mass incarceration, of racial injustice. You won't see him speak out on the side of humanity when false arrests are made. You won't see him speak out on the side of humanity when people are assaulted. You won't see that. And as long as people are complicit and stand next to him while he's not doing those type of while he's not taking that type of critical action, he'll continue in this stance. And then the person who comes in after him will continue in that stance. And so again, we sit here with three Winnebago Boone Integrity Task Force investigations open, 3 of them open. Think about that. This time last year when the city was railing and crying and everybody was sad about George Floyd and was this air of change was pushing through and was waving through. A year later in Rockford, Illinois, 3 people have been victims of police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice. 3 open cases are happening. It's been multiple victims, but 3 open cases are sitting here. We sit here with an open case into a man who was murdered inside of his home on video. We sit here with the case of a man who was shot while running away from the police. A young man, 19 years old, shot while running away from the police. And then a man who died while in a high-speed pursuit. One a black immigrant, one Mexican, and one a white man. I don't know his specific ethnicity or nationality of Raymond Jackson. I don't want to, but as far as American, and again, this is an American titling system. This is a titling system that, and a lot of people try to fight against that. You can fight against it all you want. I'm not here to say what you should label yourself as or what you should call yourself as, but these institutions are built on specific titles. These institutions are built on specific roles, and in an effort to destroy those titles and destroy those roles, we have to acknowledge what they are. We have to acknowledge that they exist. Again, too often in this country, this idea of color blindness is used as a way to get over something. And color blindness is not going to fix our situation. We are already in a country and in a society which has been entrenched in color, entrenched in colorism. And so if all of a sudden we just decide everybody's going to be colorblind, we will be blind to the amount of oppression that is already anchored into the society. If tomorrow everybody was blind to black people and white people and every other nationality, any type of oppression that black people felt would last forever, because nobody would be able to classify why they are going through that oppression. Again, it would just become this individual person's problem, which is again how America operates. It wants you to think that every person who can't rise out of poverty is their fault. They have some type of character flaw. Every person who can't break generational curses is their fault. They have some type of character flaw. Meanwhile, most people who stay rich, most people born rich stay rich. Most people born in middle class stay in the middle class. There has never been an extreme movement in America of lower class people to the middle class, or middle class people to upper class, or upper class people to middle class, or upper class people to lower class. It's not how these systems are built. It's not how these systems operate. They don't build a jail with as many cells and as many pods that the Winnebago County Jail has if they don't intend to make sure people are in there. They don't put all these police officers in the department if they don't intend to have things these police officers can arrest people for. Crime is big business. Crime has always been big business. It will always be big business. And it's not big business just for the criminals. It's big business for the people who are apprehending the criminals. Big business for the people who are defending the criminals. I don't want to use the word criminals. I'm using that as a term, as a term of the society, not as a term of my belief. And then the phone is on low here, so I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up, and I gotta use the bathroom too. So I'm gonna end this live, and I don't know, I can't remember what all the main topics were that I went to speak on, but I think I touched on at least like three or five, at least 3 out of 5 of them or so. Man, but the connection issue's been real bad, so I hope the audio and the video matching up. But let's end this. I'm gonna end this the way that I've been trying to end the majority of these lives, and I want to say justice for Logan Bell, justice for Kerry Blake, justice for Demetrius Bennett, justice for Jovan Fresco, justice for Geno Washington, justice for Mark Barmore, justice for Philip Johnson, justice for Suzette Babler, Justice for Jasper Banks. Justice for Faustin Goitigo. Justice for Shannon Graves. Justice for Joseph McCormick. Justice for Eddie Patterson. Justice for Mikey Guzman. And justice for Lil Mike Sago. We outside.